Good afternoon, Carl.
Hello, Michael. I think it's actually evening, probably, don't you think?
It depends on your time zone. It could
And
actually
your
be,
perspective.
it could be morning, depending on where you are downloading and listening to this podcast.
That's right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
We are equal opportunity time zones. I think they're truly like this gets picked up basically around the world now. Like I know we have folks in Europe who listen, in South Africa who listen, in Australia and
Australia,
New
for
Zealand
sure.
who
Yeah.
listen. So
Yeah.
it might even be good tomorrow, depending on
Yeah,
which side of
exactly.
the date line that
Exactly.
you're on.
Exactly. Exactly. What are we talking about?
So I am really interested in your thoughts on something that I've seen crop up a couple of times lately. And I don't know, I'm trying to figure out if this is just me being like crotchety about something uh or not. So you can agree with me and validate me or otherwise. So I've had this conversation with a couple of different advisors lately. So I'll just use one in particular, reasonably anonymized. So Jay is getting ready to launch a firm and go out on his own. So
Oh,
he's been doing it in an employee environment for many years, has gotten to the point where he's ready to do this on his own, has a sense of like who he's going to serve and how he wants to serve them, and a decent base of clients that he believes will
yeah.
will come with them and navigate non-solicits appropriately. Um, but he's understandably a little freaked out since he's been doing this 10 plus years in the employee channel and never actually hung his own shingle before.
What do
And
the
so
what do the kids say now? So he's feeling a certain sort of way.
sure, if that's what the kids air quotes are saying now, he's feeling a certain sort of way. Uh and so because it's scary to launch and a lot of costs that he has to absorb, right? Like he's an in-person-y kind of guy. So like there's going to be rent, office space, someone to handle and support on paperwork because he's going to be coming with a decent chunk of clients. Um, he has decided in this launch that he's going to try to convince his friend Matthew to come along.
Wow.
So Matthew is another advisor in the organization that he's known for many years. I like Matthew. I trust Matthew. Uh, I think his head's in the right place, his heart's in the right place. Not exactly the same. Like Matthew's a little bit more of an investment guy. Jay's like hardcore financial planning guy. So like they're not quite the same in their styles in coming into the business, but it's like we can share expenses. Like I just fundamentally trust the guy. And so he had come to me to say, what do you think? And to which my like first and gut response in hearing this was, I don't think you need a business partner. I just think you need like some friends to commiserate with you on the scariness of this journey. Like I don't want to belittle how hard it is to do a launch or
Right.
like any
Right.
kind of business transition. But when I started asking like, why do you really need a business partner on this? It was like, well, we're gonna split office space. I'm like, cool, but I'll bet you there's like a Regis in your area that probably has 12 financial advisors that just take down fractional office space for the time that they need it. He's like, well, I'm gonna split my admin staff. It's like, how many clients do you have? Well, probably 100 that are gonna come with me. Like, you're gonna need one admin staff for just you. Like,
Yeah.
there's no sharing. Like, you're gonna need one for all your clients. Like, you need a full-timer just for you if you're gonna go down this road. And as we started going down the list, it was a lot of like either you're gonna need a person to do that, or there are a lot of fractional solutions out there to do this. Like, I want someone to help me with compliance. Cool. Hire a compliance coach. There's like a lot of them out there, and they're really good at what they do. And Jay has a healthy amount of revenue. I don't know exactly what his numbers were, but like many hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue. So this isn't the like I'm starting from scratch. There's just no money to spend.
Right.
Like he's got some financial wherewithal. And And so I was just reflecting, like, I feel like I've heard this conversation a
Mhm.
number of times lately, and frankly, talked to a lot of advisors at the other end of this, which are firms that
Mm.
are like breaking up and unwinding partnerships because they launched together and grew apart.
Right.
And sometimes it's like, well, I'm not sure how together you actually were in the first place. Like you didn't grow
Yeah.
apart. You were never the same. you were
Right.
you were building two separate practices under one umbrella from day one. And
Yeah.
I keep hearing these stories and thinking like, this sounds like a great opportunity for you to start a study group with other advisors, maybe who are launching. In fact, like if Matthew wants to go out and start his own firm, like make a study group with them. Do weekly calls with your study group so you can all talk through all the crazy stuff that you're dealing with and navigating and sorting out, and have some, friends in the trenches with you. But you don't have to make them a 50% equity owner
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the enterprise that you're going to have shared ownership with, because that gets a lot messier really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. And I mean, first, just sort of deep empathy for feeling a certain sort of way, like when you're getting ready to do this, that can be scary. And
Mm.
second a joke, and then third a question. I mean, I remember asking the same question years ago, and I can't remember who told me. It feels like my father-in-law said, the fastest way to sink is on a partnership.
Oh,
It was really, really bad. I mean, really bad. And that's not always true, of course. But in the scenario you're setting up, I think the third thing I would say is just a question. It's been really, really helpful to me, which is, and I think this is really helpful with clients. It's how, like, what are you solving for? Right? So that's the question I'd ask Jay. Like, what are you solving for? Get really clear about that, because as you sort of went through the list of things, and it's hard actually to get really clear about it because you're going to tell yourself all sorts of stories. And those stories are not made up lies. They're literally just sort of like, we have a hard time getting clear. And you watch clients do this all the time. It's so much easier to see in other people's behavior than your own, of course, that you can see like, wait, let's back up, like, and then when you help somebody back up a little bit and they're like, oh yeah, of course. I mean, okay, shared office space, great. There's not one bit of that involves equity sharing, right? Like,
yeah, like
let's
you
let's
make
let's rent
your
an
equity
office.
and they make their equity, and you can see if you can get like co-signing on the lease if you really want to go
Yeah,
down
a buddy of
that.
mine and I, we shared an office space. We had
Yeah.
no, the businesses were completely different. So you just get really clear about what you're solving for. And I think at the end of the day, you're probably, in the conversations I've had, because I've had this exact same conversation, like, are you sure you want to be? Because and again, I want to be careful of my own bias. I just want to admit it out loud here. I'm not a very good partner, in terms of like, I've got all sorts of fancy feelings about how I want things done. And those don't always equate into equity, especially 50-50 equity, but they equate into lots of other arrangements that are mutually beneficial economically to everyone, that feel and act like equity, and everybody participates, but not equity. And so I have that bias, but that bias aside, it often feels like, when I have these conversations with people, it often feels like what we're solving for is a friend, a buddy in a foxhole, that
Yeah.
kind of feeling. And there's lots. So once you know that, to me, that's the main key, is once you know, like, what I'm solving for is, this is scary.
Yeah.
There's a million ways to solve that problem that will be far less entangled and expensive and painful. There's therapy, there's study groups, there's literally like a launching mastermind group. Like, you could create your own, like, hey, creating a group, we're going to be together for, let's just say, 6 months because we're all doing a thing, whatever. But I think you've appropriately nailed it. Like, you just go through the reasons until you settle on, like, oh, you know what, it turns out this is what I was solving for. And with clients, you think the same thing. So you're like, oh, what's the value or the thing I'm solving for? And it could be, you get down to it, and the thing you're solving for is, let's just say, friendship. in retirement. Well, then you can start asking the question of like, okay, what's the optimal way to optimize for that thing? So if you're solving for, I'm scared, oh, that's a different discussion, you know, and there's lots of ways. So then you can start thinking about what's the optimal way to solve for that. And then that becomes, you know, we often just get so far down the decision-making tree. We're out in the branches waving and we're like, it's this.
Yeah.
And you go, and it just takes a few minutes with somebody to like walk you back in off the branch, back to a bigger branch, back to the trunk, maybe back to the roots. And then you go, oh, things aren't shaking so much out here. What is it that I'm really trying to solve for? So that's how I would view it. So the question, what are you solving for?
Yeah, I really like, Carl, how you frame that, because when I mean, just think back over the years of all the times I've had some version of this conversation. I mean, I find, at least my experience, like it almost always comes down to four, like one of four that I can think of. Well, actually, I guess one of five. I'll come back to the fifth. So, uh, I just want someone to split costs with. Like, stuff's expensive, and if like Jay has not been the business owner who had to write the checks and make payroll before, so just when you go from whatever numbers are, percentage payouts to you get 100% of the revenue, but you have to write 100% of the checks, and you see the size of the checks the first time that you're writing, like the math can add up. It's still really scary when you start writing checks that big, and you have to get comfortable writing those checks. But I find, I think particularly in today's world, just like there's fractional everything now. Like, you don't have to get an admin and split it with someone. You call a nifty advisor support, and Michelle Wong gets you a part-time VA. Like, you don't want to split the whole office space. Like, just find a Regis. I was gonna say rework, not so many anymore, but like find a shared office co-working space. There's a lot that are like very nice, high quality, professional looking spaces, and you can work there. For some advisors, I find it's just something in fact, like I feel like we need to look like a bigger firm. Like, it feels weird when like people are going to come to Kitces Financial Planning because it's Kitces and like I'm the whole firm. It feels awkward, particularly if you're coming out from a larger firm that has a big national brands. But I find even in that context, okay, find a corporate RIA to attach to, work with a TAMP platform. A lot of advisors just leverage their custodian, right? You're working with me individually, but your money is at Schwab or Fidelity. They have 4,722 branches across the country, or whatever it is. I don't know their numbers.
Well,
you can walk into any street corner in America and cut me off and have access to your money anytime you want.
Yeah. Let's pause real quick because I just want to comment on each one of these as you go, because I think this is a great way to do it. One, things are expensive. I think you've nailed one piece of it. The other piece is it's just a mindset shift of back yourself a bit, like I think you're making it. And I can't remember the exact details, but Jordan started signing 1 and 2 year deals near the end of his career. And I love the 1 year, and that was largely I'm going to back myself. Like, I'm a free agent and my value is going to be more next year.
Right.
And I think so that idea of just like all of what you said, expenses are lower, and back yourself. Think of this as an investment. Like, you're not just going to give up equity. If you were making if you were a venture capitalist or you were building a tech firm, you would be very careful about who you gave equity to.
Yeah.
Right. And you'd want to, equitably, you'd only want to exchange that for somebody who was demonstrating value. Now, capital is cheap. You probably have your own. If you don't have your own, you can borrow it pretty cheaply. So it's just like back yourself. And then the second one, the idea of the bigger. Yeah, things look bigger. I do honestly, I feel that one because I went through it, and it's so interesting on the other side of it. You start to realize like that's really just in our heads, especially when you help somebody understand that their money's not at Kitces Financial Planning. Their money's at insert custodian's name. And that last statement.
large national custodian with $1 bajillion that like
Yeah,
literally does
and
this
with
for a living.
one phone call, you've like I just think that alone, and then I think the rest is mindset. The rest is like I don't think people care as much as we think they care unless we look like they should care.
Yeah. Yeah.
So both of those mindset shifts, I think.
So the third one that I see crop up is it's like someone to share the work. Someone else to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's a lot of stuff to launch. Like I want someone to share the work. And
Yeah.
again, like I get it. I certainly have a lot of sympathy for is someone trying to process through like all the things that you have to like do and manage when you're going to hang your own shingle, but particularly in folks in situations like Jay, where like I'm moving with clients, I'm moving with revenue, like $50,000 admin staff is a lot cheaper than 50% equity. If you're going to do 50 something, like 50 grand is a lot better than 50%.
Yeah. And
So,
again,
maybe
like
it's a little more or less expensive depending on your geography and cost of living. Like, you don't have to do it all on your own. You're a business owner with revenue. Like, spend a portion of your revenue to get help. It's totally normal for advisory firms to spend 30 to 40% of their revenue on admin staff and overhead support.
yeah,
So if you're not spending that much, you might be under investing.
totally. And I think there's another type of a loan that we're all increasingly afraid of, which is real, like it's lonely, and that is a real thing. And the trying to solve that with equity is like trying to make orange juice with a hammer. That
One
was so good.
that
Right,
was
right.
that
I mean, just like right, like I no premeditation on that one. It's just the wrong tool for the
yeah.
job, right? There's plenty of ways to gain a greater sense of connection and community than giving up equity in your business.
When I feel like a lot of these come down to, so many of us have lived some version of the brokerage world at some point in our careers, we're not really equity partners. Like your book's your book, my book's my book. You get your revenue, I get my revenue. Like we call ourselves partners, but we're not. I think sometimes with the idea that therefore it's not a big deal if we're mostly running different businesses under the same umbrella. You'll get your revenue and I'll get my revenue. But the challenge I find that still crops up is it's easy to allocate the revenue. My clients are my clients, your clients are your clients. It's not so easy to allocate the costs. I mean, it starts with like, let's split it together. And then after a year, it's, well, you come in the 5 days a week because you're a 5 day a week office guy. I really only come in like 1 or 2 days a week because I really like working from my home office. So I don't know why we're splitting the office space 50-50 because we don't really use it evenly. You should pay 60% and I'm only going to pay 40. And the other person's like, well, but you use all this planning software stuff. I'm really mostly investment focused. I basically wouldn't even use the planning software if you didn't buy it. So I think you should have to pay all the planning software. If you're going to pay less in rent and we're going to carve this up by usage, then okay, you can pay less of the rent, but you got to pay more of the financial planning software and the Holistic Plan, the income block, because I'm not using those. And you start going down the list as everyone's trying to be quote unquote fair. And I mean, it is fair. Like if we each take our own respective revenue, we should each take our own respective cost. Except if you're really going to precisely split every cost down to usage, like you may as well just hire someone fractionally where you pay by the usage because you're going back to the same model. Except if I go to a fractional service and I say I need 8 hours a week, they bill me for 8 hours. If I've got a business partner that we split 50-50, but not really because we're splitting based on usage, I have to haggle and argue about who used how much and what percentage of what. I mean, just that's what I see in practice when I talk to the folks who are in partnerships that are breaking up. That's almost always what it comes down to is we grew for a while. We kind of grew in different directions. We don't really use the same stuff. We're having a lot of arguments now about who should pay what percentage of each. And like, we're good friends. We've been there together a long time. So we're trying not to make this ugly, but it's kind of like a constant point of friction. that we can't really agree on how to carve up the costs. And it's like, because you weren't really partners together in the first place, like just you basically become each other's fractional leasing service anyways, except it's harder to do that with a business partner than it is just pay someone who does that for a living.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's hard to warn humans like of those sorts of lessons when you're really focused. You know, you've got a story in your head. Like I don't really care about your warning signs. You know, like it's all going to be fine. I just think it's smart to just consider all that stuff, especially again, like what are you solving for, right? So yeah, that's number 3. What's number 4?
I'm
Or
just
was that
freaking
number 4?
scared to go out on my own. And I want, what did you say? I want a buddy in the foxhole. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
totally. I mean, totally true, totally valid. Frankly, a lot of advisors,
yeah,
my gut is a lot of the first 3 are really rationalizations because it's the 4th. It's
right.
really the 4th.
Completely agree.
It's just terrifying if you've never been out on your own to go out on your own and start a business and do the entrepreneurship thing. And it's just a lot less scary when there's someone in there with you.
For sure. And again, right? So if we got down to that spot where we're like, okay, you know what? That's the truth. Then we get to ask some really fun questions. Like okay, if that's what we're solving for, what's the best tool for that job?
Yeah.
And you know, that could lead you back to a partnership. It could lead you back to an equity partner, and that's fine. But it could also lead you to, I would suggest that there's probably better tools. And we've gone over a number of them, study groups, you know, a friend. I found this exact same thing with creative brainstorming sessions, for instance, where I needed them, but my team, I kept noticing it kept causing problems
Yeah.
for them. So I just got a group of other business owners
Yeah.
that wanted to isolate their team from their problems too.
Mm-hmm.
And we became each other's brainstorming partners. And it was really, really good because it
Yeah.
saved the team. So I just think there's another example of, okay, what were you solving for? Carl needs creative time. Is there a better tool than taking up the team's time? Well, it's just 90 minutes of the team's time. No, it's not.
No, because they
You know,
find
there's
your ideas stressful because they're visioning what they're going to have to do to implement them.
all the downstream. Yeah, all you have to do is Google the bear is sticky with honey and watch that little segment. You'll see what I mean. But my point is that's another example of saying like, what are you solving for? Carl needs creative time. Okay, is there a better way to get it? If you're scared and nervous and you can just be honest with yourself about that, then you can say, okay, what's the best tool for that job? Then there's all sorts of, and I find like, I actually think if we could really get down to this, that fear is deeply rooted in just reasonably so fear of failure, fear of ruin, fear of ridicule, all the same fears that we have about writing a book or doing anything. And that is a different problem, right? Closer to meditation, mindfulness therapy, like that kind of thing. Or at the very least, a group of people that can act as a sounding board that share a similar problem.
Who are going through it as well. I mean, for basically from its start at XY Pline Network, like we've always put advisors who are launching, we into like launcher groups, like just into study groups of the cohort of other people who are launching about the same time as you are, because everybody's going through it together. And you know, everybody's path is a little bit different, but it mostly rhymes because just a lot of it is the things that we all go through as we're launching and getting going. And so you know, I hear a lot of advisors are often asking, like, just how do I make a study group? How do I find a study group? And it can be as simple and straightforward as whatever platform you're joining. Right? We do an XIPM. Like, if you're going on Schwab, if you're attaching to a TAMP, like just ask them who else is launching around when you are, and if you could have their name and a contact information. And if you're this scared, I can pretty much guarantee almost everybody else is too. And if you reach out to them and say, like, what do you think if we formed a mastermind group where we just go through this together and we can be each other's sounding boards and we'll come together. Heck, a lot of groups I know that do this when they're in launch phase, like they'll spend an hour every Monday morning for a year.
Yeah.
Just having a place to go to vent, to feel a little support, to be able to at least say, I'm having a good week. Let me help you out this week since you were really helpful for me when I was in the bad place last week. Just talk to your platform to find out who else is launching around when you are. Like it can be that straightforward. There are some fancier ways to make study groups with more framework around it, but it can be that straightforward.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, totally.
I do feel compelled to know. I mean, when I look at like reasons why I hear people want to like launch something with a business partner, I mean, it said there's sort of 4/5 that I hear. So, I want to split costs. We need to look bigger. I want someone to share the work with. It's scary to be alone, so I want someone in the foxhole with me. And the fifth is we've been talking about this, and I feel like I found my kindred spirit. And the more we talk, the more excited we get about this thing that we could create together.
Mm.
And like that's the good version partnership. Like go do that. I'm excited to build something with someone with whom I have shared vision, right? Like Jay and Matthew didn't really have shared vision about anything. They serve their clients differently with a different model and a different style and different focus on planning versus investments, which means they use different tools and software, and neither had any particular interest in doing like the other person. They just wanted to split costs and look bigger and share the work and not be alone. But sometimes you have this conversation, it's like, I think we can truly make something bigger and better together because we have this shared vision of what we're creating together. And I mean, I come to this as someone like who has made multiple businesses with multiple partners over the year. Almost all the businesses I've been involved with have had one or more business partners, and I've done it with multiple business partners over the years. And it always starts with a shared vision of we have this thing that we think we can create, and we think we can make it bigger and better and more successful by doing it together, because we're literally in it together to build a thing together, not because we're building our own things and sharing the overhead, but like we're literally sharing a vision to co-create something together. And those are the partnerships I find that tend to work. There's still some hazards. Sometimes our goals change and situations change over time, but when you're starting with shared vision, that's very different than I just want to split the cost. We're trying to look bigger externally. I just want someone to share the work with. It's scary to be alone. This is no, I think we're literally creating something together that we couldn't create on our own. So if that's where you are, you don't need a study group as a sounding board and folks to commiserate and provide support. Like you need a business partner to go co-create that thing together.
Yeah.
So I want to be clear. Like I feel like we spent most of the episode like basically bashing business partnerships. What was you said? Like the worst sinking ship is a partnership.
The fastest way to sink is on
fastest way to sink is a partnership. So like I'm actually very, very much bullish and a fan of partnerships. Like it's how I built most of my businesses.
Yeah.
But it's not for any of the reasons I commonly hear advisors looking at partnerships. It's all because several people started talking about a thing and realized that they were excited to create this thing together because there was a shared vision of what could be created that just takes more people to create than what any one of us could do on our own.
Totally. Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And for those of you who are still hesitant about that, I think we have shared vision. I think just remember, like, there is no like rule about how fast you have to move on these things.
Yeah.
There's lots of experiments. Hey, let's do a project together.
Yeah.
Hey, there's lots of experiments while retaining the free option of not forming a formal partnership. And then at a certain point, there's probably a time when you'll know or not know, and you shouldn't be nervous about that. And like, as you rightly point out, it comes with, and you'd be much more able to speak on it than I would. But from my experience and watching others experience, it comes with a different set of trade-offs, and you just need to be aware of those.
Amen. Well, thank you, Carl.
Amen, Michael. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.